Interesting, thought-provoking, relevant, conversations that matters the most. Let's talk beyond the basics.
Let's start by looking at something we all experience but rarely question. Why do we move with the crowd so easily, and what does it really take to think differently? Today, we are exploring that tension, the pull of belonging and the power of becoming our own person. For generations, people have easily slipped into patterns without asking why. Herds do feel safe, they give us structure. But the deeper question is, when we follow blindly, what do we lose? And when someone steps out of the circle, what new perspectives do they gain? Let's take a closer look.
Raw and surreal video from rural India. A large bonfire lit for a traditional event. And then, a man who herds goats begins to walk his flock around the fire. Once, twice, thrice. And then, he steps away. But the goats keep going. Round and round they go. No leader, no destination. Just movement for the sake of movement. Blindly following the one ahead. And suddenly, it's not just a circle. It's a cycle, a vicious, self-perpetuating loop. It reminded me of what we often see around us. In religion, in politics, in society. So many follow without question, without clarity, without understanding the true intent of the one they're following. Not because they believe, but because they're conditioned. Because stepping out of the circle takes courage.
Why do we herd? Because we train ourselves in school, at work, in society to think like the herd, to follow instructions, to avoid mistakes, to stay inside the lines. Psychologists like Solomon Asch showed through his conformity experiments decades ago that people will deny their own eyes just to fit in. Why? Because herd mentality simplifies choices, reduces fear, and creates solidarity. It's efficient, it's comforting, it's human, but it also suppresses individuality, spreads misinformation, and stalls innovation. In this AI era, the danger isn't just following the herd, it's letting algorithms become the new shepherds. When every feed is personalized, every recommendation optimized, and every trend amplified, it becomes even easier to think alike, to scroll alike, to react alike, to believe alike. AI can make us more efficient, but it can also make us more predictable, and predictable minds don't innovate. Think about it. Breakthroughs in science, art, and philosophy rarely come from the crowd. They come from the few who dare to think apart. What is divergent thinking? Now let's make this real. Imagine someone asks you, how many ways can you use a paper clip? Most people, the herd thinkers, will come up with 10, maybe 20 uses. They stay inside the boundaries of the question. They assume the instructions are fixed. But a divergent thinker might come up with 200 uses, not because they are smarter, but because they refuse to accept the frame of the question. They ask, do the pins have to be a certain size? Can the clip be made of rubber or some other material? What if we can rethink what use even means? What if the question itself is the limitation? This is the essence of divergent thinking, the courage to break the frame, not just fill it. And here's the surprising part. Studies show that 98% of young children naturally use divergent thinking, but by adulthood, only 1 to 2% retain this ability. So, where does that leave us? Think about it. Belonging matters, community matters, tradition matters. Yes, we need the herd for safety, identity, and connection. But becoming yourself requires something different. It requires courage, the willingness to question what everyone else accepts. It requires risk taking, embracing trial, error, and the messy middle where new ideas are born. And it requires divergent thinking, the rare ability to imagine possibilities the herd can't yet see. And here's the truth. For divergent thinking to thrive, society must evolve too. We need cultures that welcome wild ideas instead of dismissing them. We need teams that treat mistakes as data, not failure. We need communities that tolerate the discomfort of experimentation. We need leaders who understand that what looks chaotic at first is often the beginning of innovation. Because every breakthrough, scientific, artistic, or personal, once looked unreasonable to the herd. Careers grow when we bring fresh ideas, not recycled ones. Relationships deepen when we show our authentic selves, not our algorithmic reflections. And personal success comes from the courage to step out of the circle and explore the unknown. Because in a world shaped by herds and machines, becoming yourself is the most radical act of all. The future belongs to those who break the herd and choose courageous divergent thinking. Remember, belonging grounds us and becoming transforms us.